Let's be real. We've all been there, glued to our phones, rereading a text 100 times, trying to decode every emoji, every punctuation mark, every delay between replies. Does that "hey" mean something? What is she thinking about you? Is that "haha" a sign of attraction, or just politeness? And what about that text he sent at midnight? Is he into you, or is he just bored? We analyze, we overthink, we screenshot and send to our best friends asking, "What does this mean?" But here's the truth. Men aren't as complicated as we make them out to be. The way they text tells us almost everything we need to know about how they feel. The trick is simply knowing what to look for. So, today I'm breaking it all down for you on our channel. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to read a man's mind through his texting habits. And more importantly, you'll stop wasting your time on guys who keep you guessing. One of the simplest, yet most telling ways to gauge a man's level of interest is the consistency of his communication. So many of us spend hours dissecting the content of a message. What he said, how he phrased it, did he use the right smiley face? But really, the biggest clue lies in how often he reaches out. Because here's the bottom line. When a man is truly interested in you, you won't have to wonder. His actions will tell you everything you need to know. Think about it like this. When you're passionate about something, maybe a deep sleep, a new artistic pursuit, or even a deep dive into ancient mythology, what do? You explore it. You return to it. You don't let it fall by the wayside for days. Now, apply that same logic to a man who's genuinely into you. If he likes you, if he's thinking about you, if he wants to build something meaningful with you, texting you will feel like a natural extension of his thoughts. He won't need to be reminded, nudged, or chased after. Too many people get stuck in a cycle of making excuses for inconsistent men. Maybe he's just really busy, they say. Maybe he's not a big texter. But here's what you need to remember. No man is ever too busy to text someone he genuinely wants to connect with. We live in an age where our phones are practically glued to our hands. They've become extensions of our very selves. A man who's genuinely drawn to you doesn't suddenly forget how to send a message. If he's not texting you consistently, it's because you're not at the forefront of his mind, not the key projection of his anima. Now let's break this down even further. What does consistent texting actually look like? It doesn't necessarily mean he's texting you every 5 minutes. It doesn't mean you need to be in constant communication throughout the day. It means there's a steady rhythm, a purposeful effort to connect, reflecting a healthy flow of psychic energy. Maybe he texts you in the morning just to say good morning. Maybe he checks in on you during the day, or follows up on a topic you mentioned earlier. Maybe he doesn't let more than a day or two go by without reaching out. On the other hand, when a man's texting is erratic, one day he's super engaged, and the next he disappears, that's a red flag. That behavior is often a sign that he's keeping his options open, that he's not fully invested, or that he only reaches out when it's convenient for him, reflecting a fragmented or unintegrated shadow. This is where many get caught in the trap of overanalyzing. He texts a lot one day, and they feel hopeful. Then he pulls away, and they start wondering what they did wrong. But in reality, that pattern has nothing to do with anything you did. It's a reflection of where he is emotionally, and the state of his inner masculine. One of the most powerful moves you can make in dating is to stop making excuses for inconsistency. If a man texts you sporadically, if he disappears and reappears without explanation, if he doesn't make an effort to communicate regularly, he's showing you that his emotional investment doesn't match yours. And that's okay. The problem isn't that he's texting less. The problem is when you convince yourself that that behavior is acceptable, even though deep down you know it makes you feel insecure and undervalued. That's a distortion of your own inner equilibrium. Here's the thing. When a man genuinely values you, he will prioritize making you feel wanted. And part of that is ensuring you don't have to guess about his interest. You won't be hanging in uncertainty, checking your phone every 5 minutes to see if he's replied. Instead, you'll feel secure in the connection, because he'll make it clear through his consistency that he genuinely wants to connect with you, reflecting a stable and conscious bond. Now let's talk about one of the biggest mistakes people make when facing inconsistent texting. They compensate for his lack of effort by putting in more effort themselves. If he doesn't text, they initiate all the conversations. If he disappears for a few days, they reach out to check in. If he gives them only crumbs of attention, they cling to those crumbs and convince themselves it's enough. But let me tell you something. You should never have to try so hard to get a man to show up. When a man is serious about you, you won't feel like you need to chase after him. You won't feel like you're constantly reminding him to communicate with you. His texting habits will reflect his genuine interest, and you will feel that interest through the consistency of his messages. He won't text only when it's convenient, or when he's bored, or when he needs attention. He'll text because he genuinely enjoys talking to you, and he wants to build a connection, a true connection, of individuation. Now, let's address a common argument. What if he's just not a texter? Sure, not every man loves to text, but even men who aren't naturally chatty will still make an effort if they like someone. Maybe they'll call instead. Maybe they'll send shorter messages, but they'll be regular and meaningful. Maybe they'll be more action-oriented and plan dates rather than engage in long text conversations. The point isn't whether he texts you paragraphs. The point is whether he communicates with you in a way that makes you feel prioritized, valued in the relationship dynamic. So, how do you respond to a man whose texting is inconsistent? Here's the secret. Match his energy, reflecting your own inner autonomy. If he texts you every day, great. Respond and engage. But if he texts you sporadically, don't chase. Don't send follow-up messages. Don't try to force a conversation. Instead, take a step back and see what happens. If he notices the distance and starts putting in more effort, maybe he just needed a little nudge, a subtle activation of his conscious awareness. But if he doesn't step up, that's your answer. He wasn't truly interested in the first place, or his shadow is still largely unintegrated. One of the most powerful moves you can make in dating is to refuse to engage in one-sided effort. If a man doesn't text consistently, let him show you who he truly is, instead of trying to convince him to be someone else. Because ultimately, the man who's meant for you will never leave you wondering where you stand. He will offer clarity and certainty. So the next time you find yourself glued to your phone, waiting for a text that may never come, I want you to ask yourself, do you really want to be with someone who makes you feel this way, constantly seeking external validation? Or do you want to be with someone who is so consistent that you never have to guess, fostering inner security? Because believe me, the right man won't leave you in doubt. Let's talk about something we've all faced. Waiting. You send a text, and then the clock starts ticking. 5 minutes pass, then 10, then an hour. Maybe you see that dreaded typing bubble pop up for a second, and then nothing. Suddenly, you're in full detective mode, analyzing every possible reason for the delay. Is he busy? Did you say something wrong? Should you send another message? We've all been there. But here's the truth. You don't need to overanalyze a man's texting habits. His response time alone tells you almost everything you need to know. It is a direct message from his subconscious. Let's break it down. When a man is excited about you, he'll respond quickly. Why? Because when we like someone, we want to connect with them. It's human nature, a primal pairing. Think about it. If your best friend texts you with exciting news, you don't leave her hanging for 6 hours. You respond because you genuinely want to. Now, apply that same logic to a man you're interested in. If he's thrilled about you, if he's excited about the prospect of building something with you, he won't leave you in limbo for no reason. He'll want to keep the momentum going. Of course, life happens. People get busy. Work meetings, gym sessions, even just needing to disconnect from your phone. These are all valid reasons for a delayed response. But here's where it gets interesting. When a man is genuinely interested, he'll find a way to let you know. He acknowledges the connection on a deeper level. Maybe he can't respond immediately, but he'll send a quick message letting you know he'll get back to you later. Maybe he's tied up with something, but as soon as he's free, he'll check his phone and make sure you haven't been waiting too long. The point is, he's mindful of the communication and cares about maintaining the connection, valuing the symbolic exchange. But what about the men who consistently take hours, or even days to respond? This is where many make mistakes. Instead of accepting the reality of his behavior, they start making excuses. Maybe he's just not a big texter. Maybe he's really busy. Maybe he saw it and forgot to respond. Let's get something clear. A man who is interested doesn't forget to respond to you. Think about it. How often do you forget to respond to someone you genuinely want to talk to? Probably never. Because when you like someone, their messages feel like a priority, not a burden, a direct signal of your conscious will. A man who likes you will want the conversation to keep going. He won't leave you hanging for hours while he's scrolling through Instagram, watching stories, or posting on social media while your message sits unanswered. Now let's talk about mixed signals. Sometimes a guy starts off texting quickly and frequently in the beginning, but then something shifts. His response time slows down and the energy changes. What does this mean? If it happens gradually, he may be losing interest, or his initial anima projection is fading. Sometimes men start off strong because they're excited by the chase, by the lure of the unknown. But once that initial rush wears off, their effort wanes. This is where many try to compensate by texting more, by initiating more, by filling in the gaps he's leaving. But if a man is pulling away, don't chase after him. Observe. Let him show you his true level of engagement without you trying to fix it, allowing his authentic self to emerge. If his responses are still engaging, but slower, he may just be settling into a comfortable rhythm. Not every man will maintain the same texting pace forever. But if he's still showing interest in other ways, planning dates, asking about your day, engaging in conversation, then it's not necessarily a red flag. However, if his energy as a whole is fading, that's something to pay attention to. Now, here's another trap people fall into. They start playing games. They think, okay, if I take longer to respond, maybe he'll see how it feels. Maybe he'll miss me more and text faster next time. But let me ask you, do you really want to be in a situation where you have to play mind games to get a man to text you? The right man doesn't need to be manipulated into prioritizing you. He does it because he wants to, out of a genuine desire. So, how should you respond when a man takes too long to respond? Match his energy. If he takes hours to respond, you don't need to sit by your phone, anxiously waiting. Go live your life. Spend time with friends. Focus on your hobbies. Do things that bring you joy, nourishing your own inner world. When you're busy creating a fulfilling life, you're naturally less available to men who can't make up their minds about you, increasing your own inner value. And when he does finally respond, pay attention to how you feel. Do you feel relief? Like you've been holding your breath waiting for him, an escape from anxiety? Or do you feel secure and happy, knowing that he's showing up consistently, a sense of inner peace? Because a man's texting speed isn't just about logistics. It's about emotional investment, a reflection of his emotional landscape. A man who texts quickly and consistently is showing excitement. He's showing you that he's engaged and interested, projecting his interest and commitment. A man who is slow, inconsistent, or hot and cold is showing you that you're an option, not a priority, a fleeting image, and not an integrated part of his reality. And let me leave you with this. You don't need to convince the right man to text you. You don't need to overthink his response time, wonder if he's too busy, or strategize about how to make him miss you. The right man will show up every time without you having to chase him. It's a harmonious unfolding of relationship. So, the next time you find yourself staring at your phone, waiting for a message that's taking too long to arrive, I want you to shift your mindset. Instead of wondering what you did wrong, ask yourself, is this the kind of energy you want in your life? Is this aligned with your authentic self? Because the right man won't keep you waiting. He'll be excited to connect with you, and when a man is excited about you, you'll never have to doubt it. His intentions will be clear as day. When it comes to understanding a man's true intentions, the content of his messages speaks volumes, revealing the archetypical patterns at play. Too often, people fixate on the quantity of messages rather than the quality. They think, well, he texts me every day, so he must be interested, right? But the reality is, consistency without depth doesn't necessarily indicate genuine interest. It can just be superficial interaction. What? He's saying. The effort he's putting into the conversation and the topics he's choosing to discuss. That's what truly reveals his level of interest and his long-term intentions, reflecting his unconscious motives. Let's start with how he conducts the conversation. A man who's genuinely interested in getting to know you will ask questions, real, thoughtful questions that go beyond superficial small talk, delving into the depths of your psyche. He won't just say, "How was your day?" and then respond with a generic "good" when you reply. Instead, he'll be engaged. If you tell him you had a stressful day at work, he won't just acknowledge it. He'll follow up with, "What happened?" Or, "That sounds tough. How are you feeling now?" A man who's genuinely interested in you will remember the things you share with him, holding it in his conscious awareness. If you mention you have a big presentation on Friday, he'll text you on Friday to ask how it went. If you tell him about your favorite coffee shop, he might suggest meeting you there. These little details show that he's mentally and emotionally invested, recognizing your individual essence. On the other hand, if a man's messages are consistently vague, uninspired, or purely transactional, that's a sign that he's either not serious or emotionally unavailable. His persona is not fully engaged. Some men text just to maintain contact without deepening it. They'll send the occasional, "Hey," or "How are you?" just to stay on your radar, but not enough to make you feel truly desired. These are the men who enjoy the affirmation of knowing you're still interested in them, but they have no real intention of taking the relationship further. Perhaps they are stuck in the ever-youthful archetype. If his communication never moves beyond small talk, generic compliments, or casual flirting, then he's probably just killing time. They aren't genuinely building a connection. Then there are the men who only text when they want something. Maybe they're looking for attention, affirmation, or even just something physical. You'll notice their messages follow a predictable pattern. They pop up late at night when they're bored, or when they want to make last-minute plans. They might disappear for days or even weeks, and then suddenly reappear with a "Hey stranger," or "Thinking of you." These messages are designed to reel you back in, just enough to keep you interested, but lack any real depth or emotional investment. A shadow trick. This kind of texting behavior is a clear indicator that he's not looking for anything serious. He's looking for convenience. A man's texting style also reveals how he views relationships and emotional intimacy, reflecting his ability to connect. A man who's open, expressive, and consistent in his messages is generally an emotionally available person. He's not afraid to share his thoughts, feelings, and experiences with you. He's not just texting to keep the conversation going. He's texting to build a connection, weaving a bridge between your psyches. He's thoughtfully choosing his words and how he interacts with you. He's not just sending a message for the sake of sending a message. He's using texting as a way to draw you closer. But a man who's emotionally unavailable will often keep his messages detached, brief, or avoidant. He might shy away from deeper conversations, avoid talking about feelings, or deflect every interaction towards humor or distraction. If you bring up something personal or emotional, he might shut down or brush it off. This kind of texting pattern suggests that he's either not ready for emotional depth or not willing to go there with you. His emotional self remains covered, and if he's not willing to be emotionally available in texting, chances are he won't be emotionally available in person either. Another key way to decipher a man's intentions through his texting is to observe whether he's making an effort to move the relationship beyond the phone into a shared reality. A man who's genuinely interested in you will use texting as a tool for arranging real-life encounters. He won't just text for the sake of texting. He'll ask when you're free, suggest plans, and follow through on them. He's not just sustaining an endless conversation with no direction. He's using it as a stepping stone to building something real, a concrete manifestation of connection. However, if a man is constantly texting but never makes an effort to see you in person, that's a red flag. Some men use texting as a way to maintain a virtual connection without actually investing in a relationship. It's a form of psychological dissociation. They'll keep the conversation going, they'll flirt, they'll make you feel desired through words, but they'll never take the next step. This often happens when a man enjoys your attention but doesn't actually want the commitment of a serious relationship, stuck in the superficial aspect of the anima. If you notice that the conversation always stays in the digital space, it's worth questioning whether he's truly interested or just enjoying the convenience of texting without the commitment. It's also important to pay attention to how he responds when you express your own needs or feelings. This is a test of his emotional responsiveness. If you bring up something that's bothering you, does he acknowledge it and respond with care, or does he ignore it, change the subject, or make you feel like you're overreacting? A man's ability to have real, meaningful conversations through text is a good indicator of his emotional maturity and his willingness to show up in the relationship. It is the true measure of his integrated personality. If he only engages when things are fun or light-hearted but disappears, or becomes defensive when a deeper conversation arises, that tells you everything you need to know about his level of emotional availability, revealing his inner resistances. Another telling factor in a man's texting habits is whether he makes an effort to share his life with you, inviting you into his inner world. Does he voluntarily tell you about his day, his thoughts, his plans, and his feelings? Or do you always have to pry information out of him? A man who sees you as someone special will naturally want to include you in his world. He won't just answer your questions. He'll initiate conversations about what's going on in his life, because he genuinely wants to share those moments with you, creating a shared psychic space. And finally, one of the most important things to pay attention to in a man's texting is whether his words align with his actions. This is the congruence of the conscious and unconscious. Some men are great at saying the right things, but never follow through. They'll send sweet messages, make grand promises, and say how much they care, but when it comes time to back it up with real effort, they fall short. If a man's messages are full of flowery words, but he's not showing up in real life, then his words are empty, devoid of substance. Pay attention to whether his actions match his messages, because words are easily spoken, but consistency and effort are what truly matter, reflecting authentic emotional engagement. Ultimately, a man's texting habits reveal far more than we often realize. When a man is genuinely interested, his messages will have depth, consistency, and purpose. He'll text to connect, not just to kill time. He'll ask about your life, remember the details, and show a genuine interest in who you are, recognizing your unique self. He'll use texting as a way to build something real, not as a tool for validation or convenience. And most importantly, he'll make you feel secure in the connection, instead of leaving you questioning his intentions, fostering a sense of psychic safety. So, the next time you find yourself analyzing a man's messages, take a step back and look at the overall picture. Do his messages make you feel valued, respected, and cherished, resonating with your inner wisdom? Or do they leave you feeling confused, frustrated, or like you have to chase after his attention, depleting your emotional energy? Because a man who's genuinely interested won't just send messages, he'll send clear signals that he's invested. And that's something you should never have to doubt. It should be an undeniable truth. When it comes to texting, effort is everything. The level of effort a man puts into his messages directly reflects his emotional investment in you. It's not just about how often he texts. It's about how he texts. The energy, thoughtfulness, and engagement he brings to your conversations are clear indicators of how much he values the connection, reflecting the vitality of his inner world. Think about a time when you were truly excited about someone. Did you wait hours to respond? Did you send bland, one-word answers? Of course not. You put in effort because you genuinely wanted to talk to that person. Your inner impulse drove you. Men operate the same way. If he's interested, he'll show it. His messages will be more than just superficial check-ins or dry responses. He'll engage in conversations that actually matter. He'll ask about your day not because he feels obligated, but because he genuinely wants to know, an honest curiosity about your experience. He'll remember the little things you mentioned earlier and bring them up later, showing that he listens and values what you say, a recognition of your individual story. On the other hand, when a man's texting effort starts to wane, it's often a sign that his emotional investment is fading, like a loosening psychic bond. Maybe he used to send thoughtful, detailed messages, but now he's only sending generic messages like, "Hey," or "What's up?" Maybe he used to initiate conversations, but now he only responds when you reach out first. If you find yourself doing all the work just to keep the conversation going, that's a red flag, indicating an imbalance of psychic energy. Relationships, be that only just starting or well-established, should never feel like a one-sided effort. Effort in texting isn't just about frequency. It's about consistency, a steady flow of conscious engagement. A man who's genuinely invested in you won't text you non-stop for a few days and then disappear for a week. He won't go from sending sweet, detailed messages to short, one-line answers overnight. Emotional investment is not sporadic. It's constant, a continuous unfolding. That doesn't mean he has to text you every minute of the day, but it does mean that he maintains a connection with genuine effort, even when life gets busy, demonstrating his commitment to the shared reality. Another important sign of emotional investment is whether he texts with intention, driven by a purpose. Some men text just to pass the time, while others text with a goal, to get to know you better, to deepen the connection, to arrange to meet in person, embodying the desire for concrete experiences. If a man is constantly texting but never makes an effort to move the relationship beyond the phone, that's a false investment, a form of escapism. A man who's serious about you will make sure his words align with his actions, bridging the gap between intention and manifestation. He won't just say he wants to see you, he'll actually plan a date. He won't just compliment you over text, he'll show you appreciation in person. Pay attention to how he texts when things aren't easy. Does he put in the effort to communicate when there's a disagreement? Or does he shut down? Does he offer reassurance when you express a concern? Or does he dismiss it? Effort isn't just about sending good morning texts and cute emojis. It's about showing up even in moments that require emotional maturity and genuine communication, confronting the shadow aspects of the relationship. Ultimately, a man who's emotionally invested in you will want to put in the effort. You won't have to beg for his attention or overthink his messages. His actions, through texting and beyond, will clearly show that he values you, a direct validation of your worth. So, if you're ever wondering where you stand with a man, stop looking at how often he texts and start looking at how much effort he puts into those messages. Because effort isn't just a sign of interest, it's a sign of deep emotional investment, a profound commitment to his own self. The biggest sign of a man's true feelings is consistency, a steady pulse in the flow of a healthy relationship. One sweet good morning text doesn't mean he's in love, just as one slow reply doesn't mean he's losing interest. It's the pattern, over time, that tells the real story. If he shows up day after day, making you feel secure and putting in consistent effort, then he's serious about you. His actions reflect an integrated and stable presence. But if he's hot and cold, one minute he's all in, and the next he disappears, it's because he's either unsure about you or keeping his options open. His shadow is playing a role. A final thought: stop overanalyzing single messages and start recognizing the patterns. When a man is genuinely interested, his actions will make you feel safe, valued, and desired, a feeling of deep belonging. If you're constantly questioning how he feels, that's your answer. He's not giving you enough to feel secure in the connection, to truly individuate in relation. So, the next time you catch yourself obsessing over a text, ask yourself, is this the kind of energy you want in your life? Is this aligned with your authentic self? Because the right man won't keep you waiting. He'll be excited to connect with you. And when a man is excited about you, you'll never have to doubt it. His intentions will be clear as day.